Warning, the next 30 seconds are about to be extremely cringy, so brace yourself.
Up the wall.
Nice shot.
I'd like to see you do better. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Funny. Yo, yesterday I made the
Did I ask? Wow, you guys have been fighting for the last 10 minutes. How romantic.
Hey.
Nice hat.
Does it look bad?
No. It just looks like something someone would wear back in, like, the 1980s. I totally failed that exam.
Yeah, sure.
I did. I didn't know any of the questions.
Okay, Miss Smarty Pants. Welcome back to Fiat Lux. As you probably guessed, we are talking about sarcasm today. I'm Anna, and this is
Grace.
And this is the first episode of Dare to Be Different. Cue intro. So, Grace, what bothers you about sarcasm?
The silence is not nothing. The silence is where do I start? Just putting that out there. Well, it's an excuse. Like, so many people use it as, like, they're like, oh, well, they're my friend, so therefore I have the excuse to be rude to them. Because it's funny.
Because we're close. And I can be mean, and it's fine, and it's funny. Okay, so we're not trying to, like, I've used sarcasm before. Grace, have you ever used sarcasm before?
I use it all the time.
Yes, okay, so we have. And we're not trying to say that sarcasm is straight evil or anything like that. In fact, sometimes sarcasm can be a little bit helpful. For example, sometimes Grace and I will be having our 2 a.m. debates of theology and life, and she will make an argument that is kind of ridiculous. And if I kind of poke a little fun at her, it can help her realize that sometimes her logic is flawed. Now, Grace can take that well, and she knows exactly how I mean it, and she's not, I mean, would you say that
I mean, I can handle, like, it depends on whom it's coming from, I can't English sometimes, and what their intention is behind it. Because sometimes when you use sarcasm, it's meant to, like, you know, give them just a light, like, jab at, like, their self-esteem.
Yeah.
And then other times, you're just using it to, like, help them realize that, like, hey, you're kind of wrong about this. But, like, I'm going to say it in the nicest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big difference between the two.
Right. So, I'm not trying to say that sarcasm is always evil, but in general, people very much misuse sarcasm. And when you're asking yourself whether or not to use sarcasm, most times the answer is that you should not. Until you have a really strong and keen filter as to when it is actually fine. Have you ever been in any, like, awkward situations, Grace, where someone was sarcastic and you just, like, felt like you had to laugh?
I was bringing this up because I said behind the camera, like, I was like, I hate it whenever, like, we're in a situation at school and it's like someone will make a joke and then like it's dead silent, like nobody laughs at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for this person, and then I'll, like, try and throw in a laugh because no one else is giving them any credit for their joke, and it's so sad.
Like, are you talking about jokes where people are sarcastic and mean and it's not funny?
Oh yeah, that too.
Or, well, and also, like, I mean, if people do make a joke, sometimes they'll make a sarcastic, like, jab, like, huh, funny, you know, like a sarcastic laugh, like, that wasn't actually funny, kind of a thing.
And then you feel the need to laugh at it.
That.
Because you don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, that wasn't funny, sarcasm being, like, kind of hurtful isn't funny, and then they'll feel bad, and then you're like, I don't want them to feel bad, but I also don't want to support them, like,
it just makes for terribly awkward situations because you're like, do I laugh along with the person who's made fun of the other person, or do I not laugh and then make them feel bad about the joke that they made? And it's just this terrible recipe for everyone feeling awkward. There's so many positive ways to crack a joke.
Like, you don't have to be funny by making others seem, like, less funny or, like, less of a good person. Like, you don't have to, like, bring yourself up by taking others down, basically.
You can be like, man, Joey, the NFL just called and they want to recruit you. You know, like, that's something you can say that's, like, kind of funny if someone does something, like, let's say you're playing football and they do a really good job. You know, you can make a joke like that, and that builds somebody up rather than...
But it also does depend on the tone, because let's just say, hypothetically, I over-internalize a lot of things, so I'm just thinking of the stance of Joey if I were this high school boy, you know. Like, if they did a play really well, you could be like, oh my gosh, like, the NFL's gonna come and recruit you, like, kind of as, like, an uplift and, like, hey, you did so well. But you can also say it like, oh my gosh, the NFL's gonna come and recruit you, like you did so bad. And, like, so tone goes a long way. Sometimes when you say something and it comes out a little bit hurtful and you didn't mean it to, if your tone is positive, then it's easier for them to not take it personally. While if it's a little bit more on, like, the trying to... If their tone is a little bit more hurtful and you didn't mean it to be hurtful, then it's easier for them to take it personally.
Basically, err on the side of people being extra sensitive. You might be surprised when something that you meant as, like, a really, like, whatever, no big deal kind of a comment, someone else can really internalize that and start to tear at their own self-esteem because of that comment. As you saw with our examples at the beginning of the video, you know, if someone makes comments about your diet, the way that you look, the way that you dress, comments that you make being unintelligent, it can really... I think that's one of the big reasons why we have such an insecure generation, is that sarcasm is so incredibly prevalent, and not only prevalent, but it's glorified. You probably have seen those t-shirts, it's like sarcastic queen and, like, things like that, that really, like, build up being sarcastic as a good thing, when in reality it's often just destroying the self-esteem of many young people.
I used to go to, like, a public middle school, and oh my gosh, it was so bad. Literally everyone there was just constantly, like, taking each other down along with themselves using sarcasm, because they would reflect the sarcasm towards themselves, and then everyone else would pile on top of it, and then no one would, like, interject to, like, tell them, like, no, hey, you're being a little too harsh on yourself. Or, like, even the reverse of that, where, like, they'll be, like, a little bit too harsh on, like, a joke towards someone else, whether it's just, like, their intelligence or, like, you know, their style or anything like that.
Right.
Or food, and then everyone else will kind of, like, join in with them, and then it's like, it was just so bad. Like, so uncomfortable.
One person could be like, man, I'm so smart, right? You know, in, like, a really sarcastic way, or, like...
Or they might even say something like that. When they make, like, a self-deprecating sarcasm joke about, like, how, like, maybe they aren't as intelligent as they want to be, like, you don't want to agree with them on those things, because sometimes they say something that they want to be false because they want others to say that it's false. So, like, I might say something like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so dumb in this sport, and if someone goes, me too, then that doesn't make either of you feel good about yourself. Or you also don't want to be like, yeah, if someone says something and they're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so bad at this subject, they're saying that because they want you to console them and be like, no, you're not as bad as you think. You know? If people are saying this all in a sarcastic tone, you can say, oh, well, they don't really mean that, so I don't have to make a comment about it. You know, you, like, are trained to not take people seriously. Yeah. And we'll get more into general self-deprecation later on. We'll have another video on that. But these are our thoughts on sarcasm. I just really encourage you guys to take a look at the way that you are making jokes. Are you trying to draw a sense of humor by basically just making fun of yourself and the people around you and your circumstances, and just generally being negative about things? Or are you making jokes out of a general playfulness and lightheartedness that allows you to not take life too seriously at times? Take a look at the comments that you make, the jokes that you make, and make sure that the words that you speak are always building people up. And never use, oh, it's just a joke, as an excuse to say something that could potentially be hurtful to someone. Yes.
Thanks so much for watching this video today. I hope you found it somewhat helpful or insightful. Leave a comment down below if you've ever been in one of these awkward situations, or just your thoughts on the video. We'd love to hear them. Give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And have an awesome day. Let's go light up the world.